Can't have an event called Everyone Has a Story without an honest-to-goodness storyteller. And in that case, we got one of the best. Mr. Dan Waterhouse, everybody.
I got to ask you a question. Now, standing flat-footed, how high do you suppose you could jump? What do you think? Maybe 12, 18, 24 inches? Well, you might not believe this, but when I was about 12 years old, I saw a kid jump about 7 feet high. Now, how can that be? Well, let me tell you about it. One day after supper, I asked my mom if I'd go to the movies, and she told me no. I said, Mom, come on, you got to let me go. She said, no, you're not going anywhere. I said, but you don't understand. There's a new James Bond movie playing down there at the Granada Theater. Everybody's talking about it. I want to go see it. No, you're not going to the movies. Well, I put on the longest face that I could muster, and I whined as long as she could stand it. And she finally said, okay, but I'm telling you right now, you better have your butt back home before dark or I'm going to take my switch to you. Now, I took that warning pretty seriously because I was acquainted with that switch. But I kissed her on the cheek and off I went. I got down to the theater, bought my ticket, and took my seat down the front row, and there he was, impeccably dressed, driving that Aston Martin, kissing all those beautiful women, and he was taking care of those villains and foes. But then it was over. So I went up the aisle to the lobby, and I could see that there was a little daylight left, and just as the coming attraction reel started. Well, I thought I can go back down there and see what's coming soon. So I went down there, and I watched all those coming attractions, started to get up, and all of a sudden the second feature started. Holy moly, it's Robinson Crusoe on Mars. Well, I guess I could probably afford to watch a couple minutes of this. Well, I got to tell you, me watching a couple minutes of a movie is like one lick off of an ice cream cone. It ain't gonna happen. Before I knew it, that movie was over. So I went sliding up the aisle to the lobby. I looked out the door, and that daylight was long gone. Man, was I gonna get it. I went out through those doors, started running down the street as fast as I could, thinking that every second I shaved off the clock was gonna lessen the severity of the whooping I had waiting for me on the back porch. Well, I went around the side of the Methodist church and was going to take a shortcut through the cemetery, save a little time. Well, I'd been through that cemetery probably 100 times before, but this was different because it was night. And it was eerily dark that night. And all I had to guide me was just a little sliver of a moon. And when I was walking past those gravestones, I was thinking about who was in there. Dead people. And they might not want me hanging around. And that cemetery was full of really old, ugly trees with big, gnarly limbs hanging down over me, and it was starting to scare the crap out of me, so I thought, I got to get to stepping, and I started to run. And I no sooner hit a full stride, and all of a sudden, there was no ground underneath me, and I fell down, down, down into a freshly dug grave. Well, I tried climbing out of that thing, but there was nothing solid to grab onto. Oh, man. Well, wait a minute. If they dug this hole today, they're probably going to put somebody in it tomorrow. So if I could just make it through the night, somebody's going to come along and pull me out. So I began to wait. As luck would have it, I heard a twig snap and footsteps coming in my direction. Well, not knowing who or what it was, I thought, I better step back into the short, shadowy corner of this hole in the ground. And I waited, and the footsteps got closer and closer, and my heart started pounding. Then the footsteps were right over me, and all of a sudden I heard this blood-curdling scream and a great big thud right in front of me. And there was this boy. Well, he got to screaming and bawling, and he was scratching and clawing and sliding back down the side, and the dirt falling all over his feet, and he just didn't know what to do, and he went on and on and on. He said, oh, God, get me out of this hole. I swear I promise to be a better brother to my little sister, and I'm going to listen to everything my mother tells me to do if you'll just please send an angel down here to fly me home. Well, he stood there for a little bit and was about exhausted. And I thought, this is probably not a good time to let him know he's not alone. I was just about to say something, and in a trembling voice, he said, God, don't let me go out like this. Please don't let the Grim Reaper come and take me. And I figured, this has gone on long enough. So I stepped out of the shadows, I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, you're not alone. Well, that kid's eyes rolled into the back of his head, and he started to tremble and shake, and he was swaying like a sapling in the wind. And in a single leap, he shot out of that hole like a circus clown out of a cannon. And that's how I know he could jump that high. Thank you.